Catherine McKenney, Councillor of Somerset Ward, and I am honored to be your MC today. Before we begin, just a reminder, of course, to place your microphone on mute. Make sure mine's off. Yep, you can all hear me. Today we'll be hearing remarks from the Honourable Catherine McKenna, Minister of Infrastructure and Communities, Anita Vandenbeld, Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of National Defence and Member of Parliament for Ottawa West Nepean, Goldie Ghamari, Member of Provincial Parliament for Carleton on behalf of the Honourable Laurie Scott, Ontario's Minister of Infrastructure, His Worship Jim Watson, Mayor of the City of Ottawa, Corey Mayville, Executive Director, Bronson Centre, and Linda Savoy, Board Chair, Carleton Community Health Centre. And I see Jeremy Roberts, also Member of Provincial Parliament for Ottawa West Nepean and Parliamentary Assistant to the Minister of Children, Community and Social Services. And then following the remarks available for questions from the media, we will also have from the City of Ottawa, Dan Chenier, General Manager of Recreation, Cultural and Facility Services, Karina Duclos, Director of Infrastructure Services, Kevin Weary, Manager of Parks and Facilities, Paul Landry, Program Manager, Parks and Facilities, and Mike Russett, Planner. And I'd like to also extend a very special welcome to our guests from the community, James King, Board Chair of the Bronson Centre, and Cam McLeod, Executive Director of the Carleton Community Health Centre. After we hear from the panelists, we will take questions from the media led by Sebastian Tremblay with Media Relations. So we will begin now with remarks by Anita Vandenbeld, Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of National Defence and Member of Parliament for Ottawa West Nepean.
Thank you and good morning. I'm very, very pleased to be here this morning for this very exciting announcement. And I want to thank everybody here for attending. I would also like to extend a warm welcome to Minister Catherine McKenna, Mayor Jim Watson, MPPs Goldie Ghamari and Jeremy Roberts, and Councillor McKenney who are with us today. The project we're announcing today is going to have a very positive impact for the residents of the Carleton area and the surrounding communities. I'm looking forward to seeing the final results. Depuis plus d'un an maintenant, ensemble, nous avons fait face à des défis sans précédent pendant la pandémie de la COVID-19. Les communautés de l'Ontario, comme celles de tout le Canada, ont besoin d'aide et nous continuons à les soutenir. Strategic and targeted investment in cultural and community infrastructure are critical in building communities where everyone can thrive. Des espaces de loisirs modernes et accessibles offrent aux Canadiens des lieux où ils peuvent se connecter, apprendre et partager des expériences communes. Il est important que nous continuions à veiller à ce que des rassemblements sécuritaires soient possibles dans ces espaces. Over the last 6 years of representing Ottawa West Nepean, I've gotten to know about the importance of the Carleton Community Health Centre to the community and beyond. I've enjoyed participating in many of their activities over the years, whether it was attending their seniors barbecues in the summer, helping them welcome Syrian newcomers, talking with their frontline healthcare workers, or seeing the innovative ways they worked with Ottawa Community Housing to combine affordable seniors housing with their services. I'm thrilled to see that through our collaboration with our provincial and municipal partners, we are creating a more modern and accessible community space for generations to come. To tell you more, I would now like to call on Infrastructure Minister and my good friend, Catherine McKenna, to provide remarks on behalf of the Government of Canada. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Anita. I know you're such a champion for your community, and I know Carleton is very happy about this announcement. There's also a number of other people here. Well, first of all, thank you, Catherine. We always get each other. People always mix us up, including on Twitter, but you're such a champion for our community, for Somerset Ward. Mayor Watson, great to see you again. Apparently he's not just tweeting PA, but he's probably tweeting something else. That's an inside joke if you're from Ottawa. Also great to have Goldie Ghamari here, who's here as member of provincial parliament for Carleton, but of course on behalf of my good friend Laurie Scott. We've done many announcements together. Jeremy Roberts also here from the province. And some amazing community members, because I think right now we recognize how much we rely on community, and it's really what we make of it. And so two amazing community associations or community groups, the Bronson Center and Carleton Community Health Center, Corey Mayville and James from the Bronson Center, and Linda and Cam from Carleton. I'm coming to you from the traditional territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe peoples. And I think a way that we need to think about infrastructure differently is if you look behind me, I have an Algonquin canoe. It's over 100 years old, a birch bark canoe, which was a critical piece of infrastructure to navigate the Ottawa River by Indigenous peoples for millennia. Look, this is a really hard time, and I know it's extremely challenging for folks across the country in Ontario and here in Ottawa. The health crisis has been extremely challenging, and it's also been extremely challenging for community groups, for businesses, and of course for everyone. I was pleased to announce just last week, or the last few weeks, the federal government investing through our infrastructure program, school retrofits, 80 cents on every dollar to make sure that we can improve ventilations of schools. It could not be more important. The federal government putting in 80 cents on every dollar for local schools, including Immaculata and Lisgar. Also ventilation in long-term care homes, incredibly important. We've seen how challenging it has been, and those investments will make a real difference in homes across Ontario, including here in Ottawa, like Hillel Lodge and Ville Marconi. But today we're here to announce support through our community cultural and recreation stream of Infrastructure Canada. I think we all know how important community centers are to the health of our communities. They provide critical services. They often provide childcare. They provide activities for a whole range of folks. They foster greater social inclusion, and more broadly, they improve the quality of life for residents. So a huge thank you to all of those organizations that are providing these incredibly valuable services, including an extremely challenging time. We are investing in community centers, and I'm very pleased today to announce that the government is investing over $3.5 million in community culture and recreation projects across Ottawa, including a federal investment of almost $900,000 to renovate the Bronson Center, which I know that we will hear more from the Bronson Center folks, but it supports over 20,000 Ottawa residents every month. It serves as a hub for not-for-profit organizations who serve vulnerable populations and literally wouldn't have any other place as a headquarters, and plays such an incredible role in our community. We're also investing over $350,000 to upgrade the Carleton Community Health Center, which Anita has spoken so eloquently about, but it provides a huge range of critical services from health to mental health to addiction services, which we certainly recognize how important that is right now. We also know how important playgrounds are. I think we've heard from Ottawans and I think parents and kids from across Ontario about playgrounds. So the federal government is supporting the upgrades to 29 playgrounds across the city, certainly beloved by kids and parents. This includes Centennial Park, which will have a new skateboard park and 2 basketball courts, which I think is exciting for my kids since they skateboard and are basketball players. Je suis très heureuse d'annoncer que le gouvernement fédéral investira plus de 3,5 millions de dollars dans des projets communautaires, culturels et récréatifs dans tout l'Ottawa. Un investissement de près de 900 000 dollars permettra de rénover le centre Bronson, qui appuie plus de 20 000 résidents d'Ottawa tous les mois. Aussi, un investissement de plus de 350 000 dollars permettra de moderniser le centre de santé communautaire Carleton, qui offre une vaste gamme de services de santé mentale et de lutte contre la toxicomanie. On engage à appuyer aussi la modernisation de 29 terrains de jeu qui sont chéris par les enfants et les parents dans toute ville, y compris le parc Centennial qui sera muni d'un plancodrome et 2 terrains de basketball. I know we'll hear more about these investments and while they make a difference, but I just can't emphasize how I've seen community come together through the pandemic. Really, community is what you make of it. And we are so fortunate in Ottawa to have these incredible organizations that are making a huge difference. When I think of the Bronson Center, I've had a chance to meet so many of the organizations there, but think about Casa de los Abuelos, which provides a safe haven for seniors to meet and socialize. I think they dance too, because I think I've been there. I'm not a dancer, but they were amazing. Jaku Convent, who supports disadvantaged youth and seniors of African and Caribbean descent, and Orchestra, that we all love and know well, a youth-based organization that builds community through music, just to name a few. And as I said, Carleton Community Health Center provides support to so many different age groups. We've invested money across Ottawa through a range of areas. As I say, taxpayer dollars have to have multiple outcomes. They need to create immediate jobs and foster economic growth. They need to tackle climate change and build more resilient communities, and they need to build more inclusive communities. As part of the inclusive piece, we've been investing in housing. That's been incredibly important. I know that Catherine McKenney and the mayor are huge champions, as well as Anita, for affordable housing. We just invested in Gladstone, $170 million for 700 new units, our rapid housing fund, $32 million for 109 units, making a huge difference in lives of members of our community. We've got more work to do on the housing front, but we're going to continue to push through to tackle the housing crisis. On the climate front, I was excited to be with the mayor. He's now very excited about electric buses. I think we're hopefully going to go through for an all-electric bus fleet, which is going to make a huge difference for cleaner air and to tackle climate change. We also announced that our new super library is going to be net zero, which is amazing. And Zibi will be the first low carbon development of its kind. So lots going on that front, and we're going to continue to make investments that are going to improve the lives of people in the community of Ottawa. That was way longer than I said I'd go, but there's lots of good news, and I just want to thank everyone for all of their hard work during this really challenging time.
Thank you, Minister McKenna. Some pretty exciting announcements there. So we don't mind listening for longer if it means more money coming in, of course. We're now going to hear from Goldie Ghamari, who is a member of provincial parliament for Carleton on behalf of the Honourable Laurie Scott, Ontario's Minister of Infrastructure.
Thank you very much, Catherine, and thank you for organizing this, Minister McKenna, and for joining us, Anita and Jim and Catherine and everyone else. Oh, and of course, my colleague, MPP Roberts. Jeremy, how could I forget you? So good morning, everyone. I'm thrilled to be here, actually. And in a time when our province and country have encountered extremely challenging circumstances, I'm happy to provide some good news for the Ottawa community on behalf of my colleague, Laurie Scott, the Minister of Infrastructure and the Ontario government. Ontario is providing more than $2.9 million in provincial funding to improve recreation infrastructure projects in Ottawa. This is incredible news, not just across Ottawa, but across rural Ottawa, especially for communities such as Manotick, Osgoode, Richmond, and Greeley in the riding of Carleton. The Manotick Culture, Parks, and Recreation Association, along with support from key local organizations, businesses, and community leaders, has been working on redevelopment of this critical and much needed public space that will benefit thousands of rural youth and families in Carleton. I met with the MCPRA in December of 2019 to discuss this important community project and how I can support the people of Carleton to make this a reality. And that's why I'm so excited to announce today that the province has approved the Centennial Community Enhancement Project application for a total funding of $231,977. That's the total funding. And of course, that's being mirrored by the federal government as well. And I wanted to thank Minister McKenna and the federal government for their support in enhancing this really important park that's not just in Ottawa, but in rural Ottawa, because oftentimes I find people in rural Ottawa don't necessarily have access to the same services that other people in other parts of Ottawa do because of a lack of public transportation or distance or other things. So I want to thank the federal government for thinking about rural Ottawa and for supporting this initiative. And I can say that I look forward to seeing shovels in the ground as soon as possible. This funding will support the rehabilitation of parks, including accessible new playgrounds. At Centennial Park specifically, the project will support new accessible facilities, including a skateboard park, basketball courts, and landscaping. And all of these projects will provide residents with more safe and accessible parks and spaces for many years to come. By supporting cultural and recreational infrastructure projects like these ones, we are helping to make our communities stronger and more inclusive. The Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program is providing up to $30 billion in total project funding for communities across Ontario over 10 years. And this includes over $10.2 billion from the provincial government. Together, we're rebuilding the economy and creating healthy and safe communities across Ontario through our federal-provincial partnership. I would like to thank Minister McKenna and Mayor Watson and all of our community representatives for your work, and our federal partners, including Minister McKenna, for your contributions to these meaningful infrastructure projects. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Goldie. It's nice to see you. And now we'll hear remarks from Jeremy Roberts, a member of Provincial Parliament for Ottawa West Nepean and parliamentary assistant, to the Minister of Children, Community and Social Services.
Well, thanks so much, Councillor McKenney, and thank you for hosting the event today. You're doing a wonderful job. It's great to be here today with my colleague, MPP Ghamari, along with my federal counterpart, Anita Vandenbeld. Great to see you. It's been too long. It's sad that we can't do these sorts of things in person, but hopefully very soon. Of course, wonderful to see Minister McKenna and to thank her for the wonderful job she's been doing championing the Ottawa community in her role as Minister of Infrastructure. It's great to have that support for the City of Ottawa. And then, of course, Mayor Watson, great to see you here as well. Finally, a special shout out. I know we have a number of wonderful community partners with us today, but special shout out to Cam McLeod. Cam, great to see you. It wasn't too long ago that we were at the Carleton Community Health Center announcing some other support, but good to see you again virtually today. You know, today's announcement is really fantastic in that we're seeing all three levels of government coming together to support a number of really critical infrastructure projects right across the city. Some of my colleagues have spoken about those. I'll provide a few remarks in a moment, but like Minister McKenna, I think it's so important to highlight what we've been seeing over the past number of months from all three levels of government engaging and making significant investments in the Ottawa community to make sure that our city is all the more resilient as we emerge out of the pandemic. Minister McKenna referenced some of the things in the federal budget. We also tabled our Ontario budget back in March, and a number of significant investments there, including one that I'm particularly proud of. The provincial government has funded CHEO's One Door for Care project, which is going to bring together all of CHEO's kind of disparate mental health, special needs, and rehabilitation care that's scattered across the city and bring it into one state-of-the-art facility on the CHEO campus. It's going to be a real game changer for about 40,000 families across Eastern Ontario. Fantastic news for the people of Ottawa and right across Eastern Ontario. today we have a number of projects that are being funded. MPP Ghamari spoke a little bit about the funding that's going to be going to the rehabilitation of parks, including the replacement of non-accessible and outdated playgrounds in 29 parks in Ottawa. And really thrilled to see accessibility as a key piece of this announcement. We're also going to see investments in the rehabilitation of the Bronson Centre, including renovating the entranceways to improve access, refurbishing the facade stonework, replacing windows, and upgrading 10 studio spaces and the theatre for creative arts use. And while Bronson Centre isn't in my riding, I have a bit of a connection to it. In my high school years, I actually took Mandarin lessons at the Bronson Centre. And I can say that back then in the 2000s, the building was in need of rehabilitation then. And so it's really wonderful to see this announcement today. And while I can't say that my Mandarin lessons have stuck, I hope that a new generation of students and folks will be able to make use of this incredible space. Very excited to see it included in today's announcement. And finally, we come to a project that I'm very excited about, and that's the funding that's going to be going to support the Community Service Center at Carleton Community Health Center. You know, Cam had the chance to host a number of us from the provincial government a couple of weeks back in March, shortly after the provincial budget. And we also had Minister Bethlen Falvey, Ontario's finance minister, join us. And Cam got a chance to take Minister Bethlen Falvey through the facility and show him the vision that they have at Carleton Community Health Center, which is a phenomenal vision to make healthcare delivery at the local level more innovative, more accessible, more community oriented. And the work that they have done to take this old school building and convert it into this phenomenal facility is truly magnificent. So Cam, to you and all of your team at Carleton, congratulations for the work that you're doing. Keep it up. We're so excited to see the next phases. And Cam, you had the chance to walk me through at the end of that day some of the upstairs facility at the school center, which is still under renovation, and can't wait till we can go in there and cut a ribbon in better times. So congratulations on receiving this funding today to help further support the projects at Carleton. Again, I'll just conclude by saying, thank you to our municipal and federal partners. This is what the folks of Ontario and the folks of Canada want to see. They want to see all three levels of government coming together to support these critical projects so that we can emerge out of the COVID-19 pandemic stronger than ever. So thank you for everyone who is here with us today. And Councillor McKenney, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Jeremy. What a fun link to the Bronson Center. So many people are touched by it, so it's really interesting to hear how you are. Now I'd like to invite His Worship Jim Watson, the Mayor of the City of Ottawa, to say a few words.
Great, thank you very much, Councillor. I guess the challenge with being the last speaker is everything's been said. Although I have a connection with the Bronson Center with one of your colleagues, Jeremy. I was at a Chinese community event in the auditorium, the beautiful auditorium there, and the ambassador of China, from China to Canada, was there along, and I was sitting beside Lisa MacLeod, and he got up and he welcomed Mr. and Mrs. Watson. He thought I was married to Lisa MacLeod. That was wrong on many levels, but we had a laugh about it. I want to just say thank you to of course, the federal and provincial government. Thank you to the taxpayers. They provide us the funds, and we have the honor and responsibility to distribute them fairly and equitably across the country and the province and the city. And thank you, of course, to my MP, Anita, and my MPP, Jeremy and Goldie, for being here, along with Minister McKenna, who's such a great champion for all infrastructure. But this is a particularly exciting list of projects that really helps families and particularly young kids and teenagers really get out and have fun in their parks and community centers and so on. And it's great to see our community partners as well. Cam and I go back to our days in residence at Carleton University many I used to say many years ago, now it's many decades ago, Cam, that we were in residence back then. And the folks at the Bronson Center in Carleton and all of the other community associations that have helped with this announcement, because of course, in many instances, they went out and raised money. I know in Manotick, they're contributing, I think, almost $100,000 to the project for the skateboard park and the basketball courts. Alors pour moi, c'est vraiment important de dire merci beaucoup à les deux autres paliers du gouvernement parce qu'on travaille ensemble pour les résidents d'Ottawa. And Ottawa being a very large city, we have many diverse needs from the great work that all of the organizations do at the Bronson Center to the health component and education and healthy eating programs at Carleton, and of course our rural communities that Goldie spoke so eloquently about. They really also have the challenge of not having large population bases, but still have needs in their particular community. So this is, as I said, a great example when we all work together, and I know our MC Catherine McKenney is a great booster and supporter of those projects in the urban core, because of course, without a healthy urban core, the rest of the city doesn't prosper and do well. So the last year and a half obviously have been a challenge for all of us and our residents. And these kinds of announcements that we get shovels in the ground as quickly as possible to upgrade facilities, to make them accessible for kids with ability challenges, as well as those projects that are going to help to bring a community together, because these community center projects and parks are often magnets to the community where we gather and we allow our kids to have a lot of fun and some exercise. So to my colleagues at the City of Ottawa, I know many of you are listening in. There's a list, I think, of over 30 different projects, almost, I believe, in every ward or close to every ward. And I know they're excited about sharing that news with their particular constituencies. And to the staff at the City of Ottawa, because they're often the forgotten ones in this, because they're the ones that have to take this investment from taxpayers that's sent to the provincial, federal, and municipal governments, and then actually get the tenders out, do the work, supervise the construction, and then we get to enjoy clipping the ribbon, hopefully in the next couple of months, and welcoming kids to have a lot of fun in these municipal parks. Alors encore, merci beaucoup pour tous vos efforts. Merci à la personnel de la Ville d'Ottawa pour votre bon travail. And the city's share of this particular announcement is approximately $1.4 million. And we're very proud to be a part of this announcement. Thank you. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Mayor Watson. And I just want to say, you know, as the councillor for Somerset Ward, obviously I'm thrilled about the investments in parks across the city. We know how important that outdoor and green space is for our communities, for our well-being. Any investment in community health centers is a positive investment that you know, that just continues to add to the community and to our well-being again. And of course, the Bronson Center in our ward, you know, as Mr. McKenna pointed out, you serve 20,000 residents every single month, and it meets the needs. You provide space, you know, for agencies that wouldn't otherwise have space, meeting the needs of food insecurity, literacy programs, space for arts and performance. It's really, when you go to the Bronson Center and you see what happens there, it really is such a testament to what you can do, how much you can do with little, really, and any investment again into your center will benefit not just the downtown, but as we heard from from a lot of our speakers, everyone has that attachment to your center. So I'd like now to introduce you to hear remarks from Corey Mayville, who is the Executive Director of the Bronson Center.
Thank you, Councillor McKenney, and all of you have said some wonderful things. I don't know if you got my Coles notes on what I was going to say, but Obviously, you're aware, as I am, of the wonderful work that goes on in the center. The Bronson Center, as you may know, is located in the former Immaculata High School building, which was founded by the Grace Sisters of the Immaculate Conception in 1928. That's our oldest building. We're comprised of 4 buildings built between 1928 and the youngest one, 1962, which is home to our theater. The Bronson Center, founded in 1996, is a registered not-for-profit charitable corporation, providing affordable rental space to other nonprofits, charities, cultural associations, and the community at large. Essentially, our mandate is twofold. We provide hub services that support our not-for-profits, who in turn serve very vulnerable populations. We also partner with arts organizations to enhance Ottawa's rapidly expanding cultural economy. Now, I've heard this twice already, but I think it deserves repeating. Pre-pandemic, every month more than 20,000 individuals walk through our doors to take advantage of the many programs, services, or entertainment events of the day. We're hoping to get back to those numbers very, very soon. With regard to this very important and timely infrastructure project, it'll go a long way in strengthening the bones of our facility and preserving a vital part of of Ottawa's Centertown heritage. The 3 main components of the project will focus on the west and south facing facades that require specialized masonry skills on the aging limestone brickwork, as well as the replacement of windows and entranceways, which include accessibility in the oldest parts of our building. We believe we have a wonderful place in Centertown, Ottawa, and it does need some TLC. And thank you to all of you who are making that very, very possible today. So I'd like to acknowledge all of you and give my sincere gratitude on behalf of the Bronson Center, James King, our board chair, and our board of directors, and everyone at the Bronson Center for considering us as a priority recipient of this significant rehabilitation infrastructure investment program. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Corey. And I look forward to being one of those 20,000 people walking through the doors again sometime soon. Absolutely. Joining us now to say a few words is Linda Savoy, the board chair of the Carleton Community Health Center.
Thank you, Councillor McKenney. I'm really delighted to be here, and you have no idea how gratifying it is to hear all the positive things that all of you have been saying about the importance of community centers and community health centers. As you may know, Carleton is one of 6 community health centers in the city of Ottawa. And every day we work with our community partners to remove barriers that prevent members of our community from achieving their best health. Members of our staff are committed to ensuring health equity for those whose social or economic circumstances or experiences such as discrimination or trauma have placed at risk. Last year, we provided services to almost 10,000 individuals. So the funding announced today will allow us to complete a project that started several years ago, a project that was made possible by investments from all 3 levels of government, and we're quite thankful for this collaboration. The initial phase was a new building on our property at the corner of Maryvale and Coldray. On the ground floor is a purpose-built primary care clinic for Carleton, and on the 3 floors above are 42 units of affordable housing for adults, owned and managed by Ottawa Community Housing Corporation. Some of you have had the opportunity to visit, and I hope that those that haven't will be able to do so very shortly. The partnership with OCHC delivered on the vision of co-locating health, social services, seniors housing on the same site. And it has been hailed as an important innovation and one that we hope will be replicated elsewhere. We're really proud to point out that this new structure was built using passive house construction. It's the most energy efficient building model in the world. And to illustrate what that means is every 450 square foot apartment unit within this facility costs about $30 annually to heat. And our new clinic space enjoys the same extraordinary efficiencies, which allows us to direct really precious funds towards services rather than utilities. Le financement qui est annoncé aujourd'hui nous permettra de créer un espace de programmation et un espace administratif dans l'édifice patrimonial, ainsi qu'un jardin pour enfants qui offrira un endroit accueillant à notre communauté. Alors, au nom du personnel et du conseil d'administration du Centre de santé communautaire de Carleton, ainsi que de toute la communauté que nous servons, je tiens à vous remercier très sincèrement pour cette importante subvention d'infrastructure et surtout pour la confiance que vous nous avez accordée. Soyez assurés que la santé et le bien-être de notre communauté bénéficieront de cet investissement. So, I want to give every one of you a very special thanks at every level of government that has made this possible. And I want to end by giving a very special shout out to our staff and our executive director, Cam McLeod, who have put in extraordinary efforts, not just to see this project succeed, but also throughout the pandemic to give the highest level of services and care to our constituents and our clients. Alors, j'espère avoir l'occasion de vous inviter à couper des rubans sous peu. I promise there will be ribbons. Some of you have mentioned that. We really want to celebrate this achievement. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Linda. And it's so nice to see both you and Cam virtually, but to see you here today. So I'll now turn it over to Sebastian Tremblay at Media Relations, who will moderate questions from the media. Over to you, Sebastian.
Thank you, Councillor McKenney. Good morning, everyone. Bonjour à toutes et à tous. Before we begin, a reminder to place your microphone on mute until I invite you to ask your question. Avant de commencer, j'aimerais vous rappeler de désactiver votre microphone jusqu'à ce que je vous invite à poser votre question. I will now invite questions from each agency alphabetically. You may ask one question with one follow-up about the projects announced today. Nous allons maintenant répondre aux questions de chaque organisme par ordre alphabétique. Vous pouvez poser une question et une question de suivi au sujet des projets qui ont été annoncés aujourd'hui. Again, a reminder to remain on mute until I invite you to ask your question. We'll now start with Giacomo Panico at CBC Ottawa.
Yes, hello. Thank you for taking my question. I guess this is directed towards Mayor Watson. Mayor Watson, just looking at this news in particular for the folks in Manotick who are getting a new skate park, and they are to be applauded for sure. It's a lot of people want skate parks. I noticed though it's happening thanks to $93,000 from the Manotick Culture and Parks and Recreation Association. And by all accounts, they're a group of hardworking, determined volunteers. But I'm wondering, Mayor Watson, what you say to kids and residents in neighborhoods in Ottawa where there isn't an active Parks and Recreation Committee, let alone one that can raise almost $100,000 for a new skate park.
Yeah, thanks, Giacomo, for that. Well, in those cases, a good example of that is the skateboard park that Catherine and I opened a couple of years ago, I guess, Catherine, on Bronson at Gladstone, where there wasn't the infrastructure at the local level. So the city stepped in and provided the capital for that project. There are some communities that are able to provide support, the Manotick one being an example, and my understanding is that they wanted other amenities above and beyond what would normally be permitted. And as a result, they went out and did a lot of fundraising. They also did some fundraising through, I believe it was the Lions Club Goldie to expand the arena, where Scott Moffat and I were out visiting just a couple months ago. So we do have examples where if the community is not able to match the funds, the city will step in. And the park named after Charlie's last name, Catherine, escapes me now. Remember Charlie's last name? We named the park after him. I put Catherine on the spot.
That's fine. I'm going to remember it as soon as I'm off. That's awful.
Yeah, but his first name was Charlie. He was a great skateboarder in Centertown. He passed away, and the community rallied together to get the park built, and it's used very, very much by kids, mostly from Centertown. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor Watson. Charlie Bowens.
I hate to do this.
Charlie Bowens.
Charlie
That's
Bowens.
right.
And,
Yes.
I need to go because if I don't go to the House, I have to introduce legislation. So thanks to everyone here. I really appreciate this great announcement. And any hard questions you can give to the mayor.
Could I just ask an opportunity, and we could be followed up in an email later, Seb? If not, it's concerning the way the money is coming from. I calculate around 7.8 when I add all three levels of government, and I'm just wondering, is the provincial and federal and municipal part, does it come from a federal fund as well? Is it just by name the municipality or the province, or is it its own tax base paying for those? But I know that's in the weeds a bit, but would help for later. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Giacomo. We will now move on to Alex Gouge with City News Ottawa.
Hello. This is a question for Mayor Jim Watson, but if anyone else wants to chime in, that's fine by me. Given the current status of the pandemic, why is the move to upgrade 29 parks so important right now?
Well, I think we've seen, as a result of the stay-at-home order, kids need to get out for their own physical and mental health, to play and be kids. And I appreciate the province changing its position with respect to the closure of playgrounds. They listened to their MPPs and to members of council and parents and residents. And, we see how popular these playgrounds are. And given the fact they're not in school, they're not able to go and by and large use the school yards. So this is the perfect time to invest and expand and improve and make accessible these parks in all parts of the city. And I just went through the list, and every single ward, I'm very relieved and pleased to report, has a project, at least one project in their ward. So as you know, a lot of these playgrounds around the city have not had the investment that they should have had over the years. And as a result, the facilities are not always deemed safe because they're old wood structures and there could be splintering and so on. And the toxic paint that is, or the stain that is put on some of those wood structures. So this is going to significantly improve the health and well-being of all our residents, but particularly kids who use the play structures. And at the same time, this is the time to do it because we've seen how scarce open space is for young people to go and run around and burn off some energy and socially distance by seeing at least seeing some of their friends from 2 meters away. Thank you.
That's my only question for today, so thank you.
Thank you, Alex. We will now move on to Craig Lord at Global Ottawa.
Thanks very much. I think this probably would have been for Catherine McKenna, but I guess I'll ask it maybe to Mayor Watson, just in terms of priorities. It's great to see the Carleton Community Health Center get a boost in this announcement, but as mentioned, there are 5 other community health centers that have played huge roles for the communities that they serve in the pandemic. So are there any plans coming for future investments in these sites as well?
Yeah, thank you, Craig, for that. Well, in this particular round of funding, there are no other projects, but obviously we continue to work with the federal and provincial governments because there's an ongoing rollout of different types of infrastructure projects. And I too share your enthusiasm for community health centers. I had the honor of being the Minister of Health Promotion many years ago and was able to see the base budget increase of community health centers for the first time, I think, in about 7 years when I was there. So that was a needed boost, but we've seen that they very much are on the front lines of providing education, healthcare, prevention of disease, and so many other important good work that they do. So there are no other announcements that I'm aware of coming to community health centers, but I know each and every one of those community health centers has a long list of priority projects that they would like to see funded. And the great thing about this announcement is that it's not just about play structures. There's a social component when it comes to the Bronson Center, and there's a health component when it comes to Carleton. And I know that those centers have been doing remarkable work, particularly with testing and vaccinations as well, that have taken pressure off the broader vaccination testing system for their clients. Thank you.
And just to jump in there as well, I mean, the CCR was the second smallest of the 4 original ISIP streams. There were over 1,200 applications that were received, totaling more than $10 million worth, but there was only $1 billion of joint funding available. At this point, I know that Minister Scott is working with the federal government to see if a further round of funding or a secondary stream can be opened up. So ultimately, that would be a decision for the federal government to make, because this is a federal program jointly with provincial. But I can say that from a provincial perspective, Minister Scott is trying to see if we can get a second round, hopefully.
Great, thank you, Goldie. For a quick follow-up, I wonder if I could hear maybe from just Corey at the Bronson Center and maybe Dan Chenier on behalf of the city, just looking for the timelines on when these projects will be started and then finished, hopefully.
Well, actually, we've begun. One of the things we've experienced in times past when looking for public funding is to be ready, be prepared, to anticipate. And sure enough, that's what we've done. We've engaged, as per the instructions by Minister Scott, when we were approved, to go ahead and engage potential contractors and those key players that will help us with the project itself. And that is happening even as we speak. As a matter of fact, you will probably, if you drive by in the next week or so, you'll see some scaffolding up in the front part of our Bronson facade, protecting any potential brickwork that may be unsafe. So that's our first priority, is safety, and then of course the repair and all the rest of it. So it's happening even as we speak.
Good morning. Maybe I can speak for the city projects also. On the playground, we have 29 locations, and we will spread the work over the next few years. But we have 8 projects ready to go that they're going to start in the summer of 2021. On the Centennial Park, we will work very close to the Manotick Recreation Association that led the submission to get very quickly to the drawing board to complete the design and move to construction as soon as possible.
Great, thank you, Karina.
Thank you, Craig. We will now go to Olivia Nadashin at the Ottawa Citizen.
Hi, thank you for taking my question. My question's for both Corey Mayville and Linda Savoie about both your community centers. Can you expand on any plans to expand programming and services offered within the centers beyond exterior structural renovations?
Corey, did you want to go first?
No, you go ahead, Linda.
Well, what I thought I'd do is give Cameron McLeod an opportunity to discuss some of our programming. We've had some interesting challenges as a result of the pandemic. So I'm not sure that we're talking necessarily just of expansion, but also ensuring the continuance of some of our programs. So Cam, I'd like to give you an opportunity to expand on this.
Sure, thank you. So to Linda's point, one of the things that we wanted to do, much like Corey, we've got a building that was built in 1922, and we're trying to make it more efficient, more accessible, which really has resulted in the whole thing being gutted. You saw Minister McKenna had a nice canoe and some flags in the background. I have packing boxes. So this project is underway. What we hope to do is make it more accessible through allowing people with health, with mobility challenges, that sort of thing, to have free run through the building. We're designing the ground floor so that it's completely accessible with a Main Street design, so that people can come in the building and not have to worry about stairs and elevators. One of the sort of prime projects is doing our outdoor space, which will be what we call a children's garden. And we're hoping that people from the community will take advantage and come to our early on play groups, and use that space in a really productive way, maybe even with community gardening out there. So it's about enhancing, but it's also about bringing stability to the programming that we already have. As you know, and as Linda referenced, this pandemic has really shone a light on some of the things that we weren't doing or the things that we could do differently or better. And we're making notes. There will be a postmortem on our response to the pandemic to see how we can enhance programming going forward. So it will offer new programming, absolutely, but it will allow us to do what we were doing better. One more quick point is we're going to expand our community kitchen for our food security programming and to allow people to stretch those food dollars that they have to make sure that they're getting healthy food in a better way. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, much like what Cam just said, that we're sort of, this pandemic has caused us to sort of relook, rethink, and really see how this has impacted us in a very significant way. As you know, mass gatherings have not been allowed for essentially the last year, except for trickles of change over months, and that has impacted our revenues fairly significantly. But thanks to government assistance and programs that kept us, everyone's employed, everyone's still working. We're operating in the black and have been a revenue positive charitable organization since its inception. And so I'm happy to sort of boast on that somewhat. But we had to have a relook of perhaps generating other recurring revenues because this, as I say, this pandemic has kind of put a little chink in our armor in terms of just exclusive rental revenues. That being said, the board and with other key staff and a consultant have been looking at, we're just completing a feasibility study and embarking on another one that will just take a look at things such as incorporating housing, which I know is near and dear to Councillor McKenney's heart, and just perhaps a redevelopment of Bronson Centre as a whole. So sky's the limit in essence, and we're looking at ways and means to make those things happen. And probably this time next year, we might have some more information on what that may look like.
Thank you so much for both your answers. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Olivia. On va maintenant à Frédéric Pépin avec Radio-Canada.
Oui, bonjour. Je voudrais tout de suite dire désolé pour le bruit. C'est l'école à la maison ici en même temps. Alors, question pour vous, Monsieur Watson, Monsieur le maire. Expliquez-nous, là, en français, là, pour ne pas vous faire répéter, mais l'importance de ces investissements-là dans le contexte de la COVID-19. Là, on dit aux gens qu'il faut rester quand même à la maison. Et là, on investit de façon importante dans les parcs, dans les espaces extérieurs. Alors comment est-ce que cet investissement-là va pouvoir bénéficier aux gens là, dans le contexte de la COVID?
Bien, c'est bon pour non seulement les enfants, mais toutes les familles. C'est bon pour leur santé physique et mentale, premièrement. Deuxièmement, c'est important pour nous autres de travailler avec les deux autres paliers du gouvernement parce que nous ne sommes pas capables de payer toutes les factures pour des investissements dans les quartiers d'Ottawa. Alors, on avait un partenariat avec les trois paliers du gouvernement et c'est une occasion pour moi de dire merci beaucoup à les contribuables, certainement, mais aussi à la province de l'Ontario et le gouvernement du Canada. Mais spécifiquement pour votre question, Frédéric, avec les nouveaux règlements qui disent rester chez soi, c'est important d'offrir des activités gratuites pour des enfants dans tous les coins de la ville d'Ottawa. Merci.
Merci, Monsieur le maire. Ma prochaine question s'adresse à Madame Savoie pour le Centre communautaire de santé de Carleton. Madame Savoie, expliquez-nous un peu, là on parle, j'ai entendu votre collègue parler des investissements importants aux infrastructures physiques des lieux, là. Mais parlez-nous de la COVID, les difficultés que ça a apporté pour votre centre, puis comment est-ce que cet investissement-là va vous aider à continuer d'offrir le support à la communauté?
Alors, merci. Comme l'a mentionné Cam tantôt, La COVID nous a vraiment forcé à remettre en question la façon dont on peut desservir nos clients à distance. On travaille avec des populations particulièrement désavantagées et c'était vraiment un défi pour nous d'établir de quelle façon on pourrait bien travailler avec eux, soit à distance par les réseaux de technologie, et s'assurer tout de même que dans certains cas, ils doivent se présenter au centre pour obtenir des services. Alors, la pandémie a vraiment nous a poussé dans une direction imprévue, nous a amené à adopter des technologies fort différentes. Mais maintenant, on doit réévaluer où on en est pour les services de base qui n'ont peut-être pas été aussi adaptés à la clientèle qu'on a. Alors, quand on faisait mention d'une cuisine communautaire, nous avons une série de programmes pour les nouvelles mères, pour les jeunes, pour les garder à l'école. Alors, tous ces programmes-là n'ont pas tous survécu de la même façon. Et c'est ce qui me préoccupe en ce moment en tant que membre du conseil d'administration, c'est de s'assurer que les besoins de notre clientèle continuent à être rencontrés. Je vous dirais qu'on n'a pas encore toutes les solutions, mais avec l'équipe qu'on a au centre, je suis confiante que le personnel va continuer à nous proposer des innovations qui vont nous aider à desservir notre clientèle. Mais c'est préoccupant. Pour le conseil d'administration, c'est certain que la pandémie a mis en lumière les besoins d'une grande partie de notre clientèle qui est particulièrement désavantagée. Si vous avez été dans le quartier, vous savez de quoi je parle.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci.
We will now go to Jeff Morris with the Manatic Messenger.
Good morning. I have a question for Goldie on Centennial Park. Can you give us an idea, maybe walk us through some of the work and partnerships that went into this project behind the scenes and how important this project is to families in Manotick?
Absolutely. Hi, Jeff. Hope you're doing well. I think this is huge for the community in Manotick, and not just Manotick, but the surrounding communities. I mean, there's a lot of teamwork and effort that goes in between Manotick and organizations in Osgood, Greeley, Richmond, Metcalfe. I mean, it's so interconnected, especially because there's a lack of accessibility when it comes to reliable or frequent public transit. So these communities and organizations in rural Ottawa really depend on each other and work together. And this particular project, the Centennial Enhancement Project, I think it's one of the first renovations that this area has seen on this scale since this park was essentially built. So it's been at least, I think, over 30 years that this area has not seen any federal governmental infrastructure investments. So, this is huge. And in terms of the teamwork and groups that work together, I mean, back pre-COVID times, there were so many local community associations that held fundraisers. One that I can think of is Chick Time in the Tick. So Chick in the Tick happened around the springtime every year. And basically, ladies would buy tickets and it would be a girls' night out and they would spend the entire evening fundraising. The community Manotick Culture Park and Recreation Association, I mean, also worked with the Kiwanis Club of Manotick and the David Arntfield Memorial Fund. They've also worked with the Lions Club. I know that the youth organization, YOMA, which is the Manotick Youth Association, is involved. You have OYA, which is the Osgood Youth Association, that's involved. You also have a lot of local businesses who are invested and have provided either in-kind donations or monetary donations to help make this a reality. Because although this is located in Manotick, this is a project that is going to serve thousands of people in that area. Tens of thousands, I dare say. I mean, it's a rapidly growing area. There's a huge population. New houses are being built all the time. And, this is something that was desperately needed. And, the community has been working on this project for years. I mean, this is not something new. This is well thought out, well planned. And, I'm happy to support it. I was happy to champion it. And so I'm thrilled that this is becoming a reality for people in that area, because this is going to serve not just Manotick, but people all across Carleton, I think.
And just as a follow-up, is there a timeline for completion on this project?
If it was up to me, it would be tomorrow, but I know that we'll be working closely. I think everyone's going to be working together very closely to get shovels in the ground as soon as possible. So while I don't have a specific timeline yet, I know that the group is in well hands, and they'll be working hard to get this going as soon as possible.
Thanks.
Thank you. And we will now go to John Curry with the Stittsville Richmond Community Voice.
Okay, thanks very much, Sebastian. I would just hope that the list of the 29 park projects is going to be released at some point, because parks are very much a neighborhood thing, and people like to know what specific parks we're talking about. I was just wondering if Goldie or perhaps Miss Duclos from Parks could give us an example of some of the range of the projects being envisioned for some of the parks that we are discussing today.
John, if I could just offer a comment. First of all, congratulations on winning the silver medal for your newspaper at the Community Newspaper Awards. That's a great accomplishment province-wide. The list, I know I'm sure other members of council and MPPs and MPs are doing it, but I just tweeted out the list of the parks in your catchment area. The Ralph Street Park in Stittsville, and the Munster Community Park in Scott's Ward are also listed on that list. So it's available probably on the city website or on my Twitter feed. You can get all the parks and which ward they're in. So I think over to, who are you asking, Dan Cheney maybe?
Sure, for the range of projects. Like, are we talking pickleball courts and splash pads, or are we talking a play structure? Or
yeah, most of it is play structures that I can see from the list here that's out. And the city is all ready to go with about 8 of the projects for tender and construction that would begin in summer 2021 and completed by the end of 2021. And then some of the warranty work may extend into 2022. So there's the first tranche of them ready to go. And now that we've got this announcement, our staff will work with the procurement branch to put out the tenders to get those done as quickly as possible, because as you know, construction season is relatively short in our climate, so the sooner we can get shovels in the ground, the better. But the list goes and basically indicates the ones that I've seen right here. Almost all of them are involving playground equipment. Katrina, do you want to mention other things that may be coming out? I know the one in Manotick, for instance, is the Goldie talked about, is also basketball courts, hockey boards, as well as skateboard parks. So that one is getting significantly more investment than some of the others.
That is correct, Mr. Mayor. Maybe I can add. So yes, the focus is play structures. We are also adding some accessible benches, swings, and in some of the parks we are making some adjustments and adding some adjacent pathways because accessibility is one of the goals of the improvements on these parks. And on the Centennial Park, we are doing the new skateboard park. We are replacing also the boards on the outdoor ring. We are building 2 basketball courts, improving landscaping and signage, and we are also increasing accessibility by upgrading the park furniture.
okay, well, thank you very much for that. And just as a follow-up, is there community input involved in any of this, or is just replacement of existing, and so there is no community voice being asked for? or does the community have some input on what the new structure is going to be like?
The city does a very good job at reaching out to the communities and working with the community needs and opinions. So like in every project we do, we will connect with the community to inform and discuss and listen to what they have to say on each of these projects.
And I might,
okay, thank you.
John, I might just add, we sent around a circular to all members of council asking for projects that they had received requests from their communities over the years. And since we never had this tri-government funding envelope before, we were only able to do a few of them each year based on councillors' list of requests from the community. So there's actually been a pre-consultation because each member of council gets a large number of requests each and every year for upgrades to parks. So this is the first opportunity we have to actually get a long list of projects up and running. So there has been some consultation, but in terms of the actual structures and so on, that's the councillors will work with city staff to seek further input before shovels go on the ground. But as I mentioned, I think 8 of the projects are past that stage now. They've had a fair amount of consultation and we're able to break ground this summer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. Merci à toutes. This is all the time we have. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Have yourselves a wonderful Tuesday.